and that these are like the actions of a banana republic. You take your political rival and you arrest him, and specifically you charge him with things that you're fucking guilty of, like the documents, like the classified documents. Biden's guilty of the exact same issue.
You gotta respect the level of deceptiveness that's been used. I mean, look at what Hillary did, going and saying, hey, it's Russia, but it was really, what she was doing. And now they're using a similar play as well. Yeah.
And the people that love Trump, they feel like this is a witch hunt.
What? I wish Hillary Clinton went to jail for so many reasons. One, because it would have been fucking dope. Two, because maybe it would shut these fucking idiots up for like 3 seconds. But like probably not. Jerry's unwatchable now. The funniest thing is the channel that originally clipped this, Myth Informed, used to literally be like an anti-Rogan channel. They used to criticize all the dumb shit that this ape is saying. And then they turned into like pro-Rogan somewhere along the way, because now there are 3 guys from Milwaukee that oppose authoritarian ideology. And I don't even know how they... Like, I used to watch their shit all the time. I used to look at their clips all the time. I think they just like watched Rogan so much.
He's being targeted.
How is Joe Biden specifically trying to arrest Trump, Lamau? Come on, he's using the DOJ. Don't think too much into it, chat. Come on, these guys are fucking stupid. Okay, if you think a little bit too hard into it, then it's going to hurt your brain.
Much election fraud do you think is real?
Here we go, Joe. You want to go to election fraud?
Yeah, because I don't think it's zero.
No,
it's
no
not
way.
zero.
Yeah, no shit, it's not zero, you fucking... Oh my God, you are such an ape. Oh, it is impossible for there to be zero election fraud. Or not election fraud, voter fraud. There's so much election fraud. It's a different thing. Okay? The point is it enough to legitimately change the outcome of an election? And there has been studies conducted on this from right-wing operatives, from right-wing think tanks, from right-wing administrations, from liberal administrations, nonpartisan NGOs, and every single one, including Donald Trump's own Election Security and Integrity Committee, they have found the same exact thing. No, there isn't there isn't enough voter fraud for it to even move the needle a little bit. The greatest proof that they use is the American Enterprise Institute's large, comprehensive study over the course of like 30 years. That study shows 1,200 instances of individual voter fraud. 1,200. Now you might think, wow, that's a lot. Except it's 1,200 over like 1 billion ballots that have been cast over the course of 30 years. In every midterm election and in every presidential election. You can't even you can't even move the needle on one local election with 1,200 fraudulent voters. And by the way, a lot of those voters are Republican. That's the other part that we never talk about. Everybody always talks about, oh my God, voter fraud is happening so much, so egregious, it's so crazy. It's like, oh yeah? Well, Republicans are also doing it. The most notable ones, it's the Heritage Foundation one. Sorry, not American Enterprise Institute. Sorry. 1,400 now, not 1,200. 1,400. This is their big, crazy revelation. If you think that this over 1 billion votes that have been casted over the course of 30 years, more than 1 billion votes, if you think that this is statistically significant, you are a fucking ape. Okay, why do you call him an ape? He is just not informed. Joe Rogan? That's why I'm calling him an ape. Stupid. The clip isn't about voter fraud. What is it about then? Those are proven though? What does that mean? Yeah, of course these are proven. What are you saying? Okay. And also a lot of these convictions exactly are people who had lost their voting rights, but they thought they could vote after serving their sentence like the people in Florida. Some of these are also improperly filed voter registration. It's not even like deliberate attempts. It's not even fucking deliberate attempts of like, I'm going to go and do voter fraud to vote for Donald Trump or some shit like that. It is so laughable that this is what moves the needle for the Republican Party. Proven, no shit, Sherlock. How am I supposed to prove something that's made up? Yeah, that's the funniest part. It's like, well, those are proven instances of voter fraud. What about the unproven instances of voter fraud? Okay. How do you prove something that's not real? Like, go ahead. Prove that you're not a pedophile. Okay? I'll call you a pedophile. Go ahead. Prove that you're not a pedophile. Good luck. How are you going to do that? Even 1,401 election would be minuscule. Exactly. Oh, you can say a lot of stuff about American elections, okay? Voter suppression is out of control. It's really fucking weird that you can't vote on a federal holiday. These are all deliberate attempts. Press the number of people that vote, especially working class people. But the one thing you can't say is that American elections are insecure. For all intents and purposes, for all of its failures, American elections are pretty secure as it gets. That's it. Couldn't a lot of those election frauds be? No, voter fraud. Individual voter fraud is different than election fraud. Election fraud, election engineering, electioneering, or even voter suppression. These are things that happen regularly. These are the real problems, not voter fraud in the sense that like people are going out and like voting by the dozens. Undocumented immigrants are going out and voting illegally. All that stuff is bullshit. As a matter of fact, that narrative, in spite of the fact that there's no empirical evidence to suggest is true, is utilized by the Republicans to justify election fraud, voter suppression.
Zero. I think we could all agree it's not zero.
No way it's not zero.
And we know that these voting machines can be fucked with.
Yeah.
And we know that there's some irregularities. All that Kerry Lake stuff.
I hope he gets sued by Dominion, dude. Fuck you. There's no fucking way this piece of shit doesn't know what he's doing. I'm sorry. I hope Dominion wipes the fucking floor, slaps him with a fucking $1 billion lawsuit. Come on.
In Arizona that they're trying to dismiss. It doesn't look like that's invalid. It looks like there's real fraud there. It looks like there's some real shenanigans there. At the very least, there was voting machines that weren't working properly, and it seems very suspicious that a lot of them were in Republican areas. There's a lot of shenanigans.
Oh my God. We, as an American society, in the year 2023 of our holy Lord, are unfortunately too stupid to come back from. It's done. We've passed the barrier of stupidity, and it's done. This is the same exact narrative that dumbasses deployed against the sound of freedom. Oh, well, the AC wasn't on. What are they hiding? Do they want me to stop? Voting machines fucking up in any county, okay, is unfortunately the norm. Oh, yeah. Kerry Lake sued for defamation by Arizona GOP election officials she accused of election sabotage. The cost of clown college outpacing is the other higher ed because the demand for clowns seems to be skyrocketing. Oh. I work in IT like many do, and the number of systems that just decide not to work is very common. I know. And again, machines fucking up unintentionally is very common. The real problem is when you actually refuse to put voting machines in polling stations, for example. And that is what is done deliberately, oftentimes by Republicans. The people that refuse to open up polling stations in black and brown neighborhoods. They do that by design. They close polling stations in black and brown neighborhoods on purpose. That is by design. That's the real shit. Not this, oh, wow, one machine fucked up.
Coordinated efforts to make sure that certain people get elected. I don't know how far they go, but I know it's not zero. How much election fraud do you think?
I don't know if you're following what Vivek said yesterday. He came out and says, look, I want to compete against Trump, but not by using something like this and what they're doing on the other side. All I'm saying is, if Newsom shows that he's being respectful of Biden, because what is your theory of why DeSantis is not having momentum? What do you think about when you think about DeSantis?
Trump. He doesn't have the personality. I just don't think he can compete with Trump. Trump has just this cult behind him. I mean, these people that love Trump, he's their hero. And the things that he says, the bombastic personality, the way he can control a room, the way he speaks in an arena of screaming fans, and makes people laugh and says things that they want to hear. DeSantis can't do that. I mean, he did a great job with Florida, and people loved his position as a governor in Florida, but I feel like he's fucking that up.
For the record, I do love seeing my commentary for months and months on Ron DeSantis, specifically as it pertains to COVID, get reflected on NPR and New York Times as well months later. One thing that I talked about a lot with Ron DeSantis was his only strong element was that during COVID, he just didn't shut down, and he was ruthless about it. And Republicans loved that, right? Even though he originally did shut down in the beginning. And nobody in the United States of America, other than people in the margins who are either on one side of the issue or on the other, either who still want to have COVID shutdowns or have extra protection and protocol, who are technically on the right side, at least overly cautious, but still on the right side of medical history, versus the other people who are psychotic freaks who still are the vaccines made you gay. Most Americans don't want to think about COVID. And I've said it so many times. Ron DeSantis had its moment in the spotlight with moves that he made during a time frame that nobody wants to think about because it ultimately makes them feel bad. Most Americans do not want to look back at COVID. They do not want to look back at the weight they gained. They do not want to look back and think about their relatives that fucking passed away in a hospital in a ventilator with no one around. They do not want to look back at the dark times. They want to move forward and they want to have regular old experiences once again, and they've achieved that. So for that reason, this is a big benefit for Trump, this election cycle, and it's a big problem for Ron DeSantis because Trump's COVID experience in the eyes of the American public was mismanagement. Ron DeSantis' experience in the eyes of the Floridian population that voted for him in the gubernatorial race was very positive. But considering that nobody wants to think about COVID now, and if you constantly bring up COVID, you're going to be annoying, this works against Ron DeSantis. He's got nothing else. All the woke, anti-woke legislation, all this other shit, it sucks. It's not meeting the expectations of the broader Republican base. They don't give a fuck. And polls are showing this as well, for the record. They don't care that much. They still think, one, Trump is better on woke issues than Ron DeSantis, which is hilarious because it's all charisma and nothing to do with actual legislation at all. Okay? They do not give a shit about Ron DeSantis making it illegal for a teacher to have a photo of her and her partner at the desk. You know what I mean? Republicans that care about that are fucking insane, but the broader voter population doesn't care. Part of it is because nobody likes smarmy, annoying woke scolds that are constantly fucking ruthlessly yelling about one issue. In the lead up to the Donald Trump administration and Donald Trump victory, the 2010s, the beginning of the 2010s, at the second part of the Obama administration, were normies getting frustrated with SJWs because they were constantly fucking screeching. Constantly complaining on issues that were completely irrelevant to the grand scheme of things, oftentimes complaining because they wanted to take your treats away somehow. And part of that wasn't because they were on the leftist side or the progressive side of history that there was so much disdain. Part of that was literally because of repetition. There was too much. At first, there was fatigue against it, and then there was disdain. Okay? Now, the pendulum has swung in the other direction, where all of the hyper right-wing weirdos are doing the same fucking shit that they were ripping into bits in the Gamergate era. Okay? They are basically doing the top 10 man-spreader violations, but for the right. When they're like, oh, don't consume Bud Light, it's trans. Don't do this, it's gay. Don't do that, it's woke. Constantly fucking screeching over and over and over again about like, oh, don't go shop at Target. How dare you? Yeah, they've become social injustice warriors, but ultimately they're fucking annoying. Okay? They're annoying. Constantly chirping about boycotts and whatnot. Constantly talking about like, oh, my Starbucks order doesn't have the Christmas logo on it. I'm going to kill myself. It's going to be boring after a while. People are going to get annoyed. So that's what's going on with the social injustice warriors and the vice signalers, all of which make up the base, the hypothetical base that Ron DeSantis thinks exists out there because his triangulation is so fucking stupid.
You think he should have ran?
No.
Oh,
no,
so you don't even
think
he should have
so.
ran?
I don't think he can beat Trump. As long as Trump doesn't get arrested, as long as he is, he's been indicted again, and who knows where that goes. But if Trump's not in jail, he can't beat him.
Yeah.
And the people that love Trump, they feel like this is a witch hunt, and they feel like all the things he's getting indicted for are bullshit anyway. Not only does it not work, but it kind of hardens their position that he's being targeted. And that these are like the actions of a banana republic. You take your political.
Yeah, we just saw this part. But, yeah, to be fair, though, guys, Donald Trump could be fucking indicted for, like, murdering a veteran with his bare hands, and people will be like, it's a witch hunt. Like, sorry, you can't look at the situation and be like, well, his fucking psychotic mouth-breathing fan base think that he's awesome. You know what I mean? Ghouls, a lot of them. Great. Oh. Electronic voting is always going to have trust issues. It will never be transparent. Some people will never understand computers. Electronic voting is not a need either. Great take from Indibi, who I assume is Turkish, because I'm shocked if you're an American and this oblivious about our voting processes. The United States of America does not have electronic voting. I believe there's only one state in the nation that has electronic voting in the United States of America. Did you know this? It's paper, which is the safest way to vote. Even though you might think you're pressing buttons on a machine when you go in to the booth, the voting booth, that button is generating paper outputs, which can always be hand counted. There is a paper ballot inside of the machine. There you go. I just looked into the voting database. Only about 100 are duplicate voting, and it's over decades. Many are also because the person moved and thus voted twice in a national election. The majority are ineligible to vote due to convictions, while the rest are someone registering as another person without following the exact rules, or it's a corrupt scheme by a local politician. Yeah. I think Tennessee might be the only place that has electronic voting with no paper backups. Yes, it's like some fucking right-wing place. Or maybe Louisiana? I don't remember. Anyway, that's an incredibly stupid take. Electronic voting has never been safer. Even curbed coerced voting is isolated in areas used to be controlled by kernels. No, electronic voting still has issues with safety, as far as I understand. Paper voting is better. Paper voting is more safe. That doesn't mean electronic voting is unsafe. They do it in Estonia. It's like 100% electronic. But there are still insecurities in electronic voting, as far as I understand. This is not my forte. This is not my forte at all. But I do believe that there is still always going to be cybersecurity issues. And I do believe that the professionals that say paper ballots are still safer. Anyway, the voter fraud stuff is so mind-bogglingly stupid.